The story of Noah and his sons is one of the most intriguing and controversial narratives in the Old Testament. While many of us are familiar with the story of Noah's Ark and the flood, few know about the disturbing events that occurred after the waters receded. This account, found in the book of Genesis, chapter 9, raises profound questions about family, sin, and the consequences of our actions. To fully understand this story, we first need to place ourselves in the historical and cultural context of the time. The event occurs shortly after the Great Flood, a moment when humanity was essentially starting over. Noah and his family, his wife, his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives, were the only survivors of a global cataclysm that had destroyed all life on earth, except for those who were on the ark. Noah, having been chosen by God to preserve life during the flood, was considered a righteous and upright man. He and his family had the responsibility to repopulate the earth and establish a new society based on divine principles. However, as we will see, even the most perfect families can face significant internal challenges and conflicts. The biblical narrative tells us that after the flood, Noah became a farmer and planted a vineyard. At some point, he drank the wine he produced and became drunk, lying naked inside his tent. It is at this point that the story takes an unexpected and disturbing turn. Genesis 9 verses 22 to 23 reports, Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked and told his 2 brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. Then they walked in backward and covered their father's naked body. Their faces were turned the other way so that they would not see their father naked. At first glance, it may seem that Ham simply made a mistake in seeing his father in a vulnerable state. However, his brother's reaction and the subsequent consequences suggest that something more serious occurred. 1. The literal view. Some scholars argue that Ham's sin was simply seeing his father naked and doing nothing to preserve his dignity. In this interpretation, Ham failed to show due respect to his father and instead exposed Noah's shame to his brothers. 2. The abuse theory. A darker interpretation suggests that the phrase saw his father naked is a euphemism for a sexual act. Some commentators believe that Ham may have sexually abused his father while he was incapacitated by alcohol. This theory is based on similar language use in other parts of the Old Testament, where uncovering the nakedness of someone often refers to illicit sexual acts. 3. The castration hypothesis. Another theory proposes that Ham may have castrated his father. This idea is derived from ancient Jewish traditions and is supported by Noah's subsequent curse on Canaan, Ham's son, which includes servitude to his brothers. The logic behind this theory is that just as Ham deprived Noah of the ability to have more children, Noah curses Ham's lineage. 4. The usurpation argument. Some scholars suggest that Ham was trying to usurp his father's authority. By seeing Noah in a vulnerable state, Ham may have seen an opportunity to challenge his father's leadership and possibly take control of the family. Regardless of the exact nature of Ham's sin, the consequences were severe and far-reaching. When Noah awoke and learned what Ham had done, he pronounced a curse, not directly on Ham, but on his son Canaan. Cursed be Canaan. The lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers. Genesis 9 verse 25. This curse has been the subject of much debate and, unfortunately, was historically used to justify various forms of oppression and slavery. However, it's important to understand that the curse was not a racial condemnation, but rather a prophecy about the future nations that would descend from Canaan. 1. The importance of family respect. Regardless of the specific interpretation, it's clear that Ham failed to show proper respect to his father. This story reminds us of the importance of honoring our parents and preserving the dignity of our family members, even when they are in compromising situations. 2. The consequences of sin. The incident with Ham shows us that our actions can have far-reaching consequences, not just for ourselves, but for future generations. The curse on Canaan serves as a somber reminder of how our sins can affect those who come after us. 3. The complexity of human nature. This story reminds us that even revered biblical figures like Noah had flaws. Noah's drunkenness and subsequent nakedness show that we are all susceptible to moments of weakness and vulnerability. 4. The importance of forgiveness and redemption. Although the narrative doesn't explicitly mention forgiveness, the fact that Ham continued as part of Noah's family suggests that there was some level of reconciliation. This reminds us of the importance of forgiveness and the possibility of redemption, even after serious transgressions. 5. The danger of stereotypes and prejudices. The historical misinterpretation of this passage, used to justify racism and slavery, serves as a warning about the dangers of taking scriptures out of context or using them to justify personal biases. It's important to consider this story in the broader context of Near Eastern cultures. In the patriarchal societies of the time, honor and shame played crucial roles in social interactions. Seeing a father naked was considered a grave violation of social codes and could be interpreted as a challenge to patriarchal authority. Moreover, the idea of generational curses was not uncommon in ancient cultures. It was believed that an individual's actions could affect not only their own life but also the fate of their descendants for several generations. In Jewish tradition, particularly in the Midrash, rabbinical interpretations and elaborations of scriptures, the story of Ham and Noah is explored in greater depth. Some interpretations suggest that Ham not only saw his father naked but also photographed or caricatured him in some way, thus increasing Noah's humiliation. Other Jewish traditions go even further, suggesting that Ham or Canaan may have committed a homosexual act with Noah. These interpretations are based on linguistic parallels with other Old Testament passages where similar expressions are used to describe illicit sexual relations. The story of Ham and Noah has had a lasting impact on literature and culture. It has been the subject of numerous works of art, from Renaissance paintings to modern literature. The moral complexity of the narrative, with its nuances of shame, sin, and punishment, continues to fascinate artists and writers. In literature, the dysfunctional family dynamics portrayed in this story have echoed in countless works that explore themes of intergenerational conflict and the consequences of family secrets. The idea of a family curse passing from generation to generation has also become a common trope in Gothic fiction and magical realism. In modern times, scholars and theologians continue to debate the meaning and implications of this story. Some see it as an etiological narrative, intended to explain the origins of certain peoples and their relationships. Others interpret it as a moral lesson about respect, authority, and the consequences of sin. From a psychological perspective, the story can be seen as an exploration of complex family dynamics and conflicts that can arise between parents and children. Ham's behavior can be interpreted as a manifestation of the Oedipus complex, representing the unconscious desire to usurp paternal authority. Some modern scholars also suggest that the story may be a metaphor for broader cultural conflicts. In this perspective, Noah represents the old order, while Ham symbolizes new cultural forces that challenge established traditions. Despite its antiquity, this story raises questions that remain relevant in our modern society. 1. Ethics and privacy. In the world of social media and constant information sharing, Ham's story makes us reflect on the limits of privacy and the consequences of exposing others' vulnerabilities. 2. Family responsibility. The narrative reminds us of complex family dynamics and the importance of maintaining respect and dignity within family relationships, even in difficult situations. 3. Long-term consequences. The curse on Canaan serves as a reminder of how our actions can have repercussions that extend far beyond our immediate lives, affecting future generations. 4. Responsible interpretation of scriptures. The historical misuse of this passage to justify racism alerts us to the importance of interpreting sacred texts responsibly and in context. 5. Forgiveness and reconciliation. Although the story focuses on punishment, it also opens space for discussions about forgiveness, redemption, and the possibility of overcoming past transgressions. The story of Ham and Noah, with all its complexity and controversy, continues to be a rich source of reflection and debate. It challenges us to consider profound questions about family, respect, sin, and its consequences. At the same time, it reminds us of the importance of interpreting ancient texts with care and sensitivity, always aware of the historical and cultural context in which they were written. This narrative, although brief, opens a window into the complexities of human nature and family relationships. It shows us that even revered figures like Noah had flaws, and that families, even those chosen by God, are not immune to conflicts and challenges. Above all, Ham's story invites us to reflect on our own actions and relationships. It encourages us to consider how we treat those who are in vulnerable positions, how we deal with others' mistakes, and how our own actions can affect not only our lives but also the lives of those around us and future generations. As we continue to study and debate this ancient story, perhaps its most important lesson is to remind us of the complexity of the human condition. It shows us that no one is entirely good or bad, that we are all capable of both acts of respect and honor and failures and transgressions. And ultimately, it challenges us to seek understanding, compassion, and, when possible, reconciliation in our own family and community relationships. May we, in reflecting on this ancient story, find wisdom to navigate the complex ethical and relational challenges of our own time, always seeking to act with respect, integrity, and compassion.